Շատ կներեք ուշացումի համար, երևում է, որ այսօր մենք հետազոտություն ենք արել մի փոքր և արդյունքներն է բերում, որ այդ breakout session-ները պետք է արվի լանչ ուտելուց հետո, ոչ թե լանչ ուտելն առաջ։ Կբերենք այդ արդյունքը հաջորդ կոնֆերենցին, շնորհակալություն ձեր բոլորին համբերության համար։ Հիմա կուզեմ հերթով հրավիրեմ breakout session-ի ղեկավարները, որ իրենք իրենց տպավորված ամփոփումը կիսեն ձեզ հետ։ Հետո վերջին մաս այսօր պիտի խնդրենք, որ Dr. Deckelbaum-ը և Dr. Dari ձեզ հետ խոսան խոչընդոտներու մասին nutrition programming-ի, իրենց միջազգային փորձառություն է կբերեն, բայց ավելի իրենց համար հետաքրքիր է ձեր տեսակետով ինչ են խոչընդոտները, ինչ ունեք դուք, որպեսզի քննարկենք և տեսնենք ապագա հնարավոր լուծումները։ Համարցում չով հերթուվանեմ breakout session-ի ամփոփումները։ Dr. Belizy can. Dr. Belizy, can you give a small summary of your session and some of the perceptions that you had of the session and its key messages?
So let me summarize what we covered. One of the problems was there was such an interesting morning that all the breakout sessions were abbreviated in time. And the session that we had, which was in this room, many of you came, and it wasn't possible to have an interactive session because the way it was. So let me just summarize what I covered. What I wanted to do was to point out that in this field of osteoporosis, where we have, we thought we had figured out all the risk factors for this disease. One of the most important risk factors, of course, is bone density. But we know a lot more. We know about family history as an important risk factor. We know about anyone who's had a previous fracture. That's important. We know people who have been on glucocorticoids, people who are smokers, people who drink too much, people who have other diseases like chronic obstructive lung disease, rheumatoid arthritis. We know all these things, and we can put them into a software program called FRAX and predict fracture very, very accurately over a 10-year period. We can predict a hip fracture, and we can predict any other major osteoporotic fracture. Now, this tool, which we thought we had with which we had identified the major risk factors, does not include two of the major disorders of our time. One, diabetes, and two, obesity. And up until recently, it was felt that people with diabetes, and when I say diabetes, I mean type 2 diabetes, because we've always known that type 1 diabetes was a risk factor, but not type 2. In fact, type 2 diabetes was always thought to be protective, in part because people with type 2 diabetes tend to be overweight. But then it became apparent that if you look at the epidemiological data, type 2 diabetes is associated with increased fracture risk, not reduced fracture risk. And then the discussion revolved around, well, how could that be? Well, people with diabetes have a greater tendency to fall. We know that. There is neuropathies, there are lots of issues with balance, and it is true that those with diabetes have a greater tendency to fall. Well, that doesn't answer the question. And then we thought about some of the drugs, like the thiazolidinediones, and on and on and on. And then it turns out that in type 2 diabetes, there's a real, rather unique microstructural defect in the bones, the way they deteriorate, and the dynamics of bone remodeling. So we have to put on our list as a risk factor for osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes. Now, how we regard type 2 diabetes, how we quantify it, and how we use it with all these other risk factors remains to be seen. The second part of the workshop was identifying another major issue, namely obesity. We have always thought that people who are overweight, if there was anything good about being overweight, it was protecting that patient from osteoporosis, because people who are overweight have more mass, and we know that more mass is associated with bigger bones, and by bone density, stronger bones. But now, ferreting this out and looking at how obesity is or is not contributing to fracture risk, it turns out that people who are obese also have an increase in fracture risk. And there are lots of mechanisms by which that could be explained. So what we did was to come up with two central thoughts for which there is good evidence. That diabetes, if you have a patient who has type 2 diabetes, and you're evaluating that patient for osteoporosis, you can look at all the other risk factors, and you have to consider diabetes also as an additive risk. And the second major point is that if that patient also is obese, by the way, there are obese patients who don't have diabetes, so obesity is an independent risk factor, you have to take that into account. And I think over the next 5 years, we're going to be able to quantify how much of risk can be subsumed by either type 2 diabetes or obesity. So that was our session, and I hope it was useful to those of you who came. I apologize for how we had to abbreviate the session. It wasn't as interactive as we would have wanted it to be, but we did the best we could. Thank you.
So, our topic was nutritional requirements of children from 0 to 5 years of age, and what happens with growth faltering, and how to identify the problem and deal with the problem. So, we also kind of ran out of time, and so the session had to be abbreviated. There was a lot of people in the room, so that we had to have a second room. Anyone here was in the second room? Yes? Were you able to hear? Yes, I'm glad, because I was a little worried that I tried to repeat some of the questions so that people who were in the other room were able to hear, but obviously it was not as interactive as we would have liked it to be. So the major points, I think, that we talked about actually are also related to Dr. Dimachan's presentation earlier in the day, and that has to do a lot with feeding, even more so in many ways than with nutrition. And number one, we talked about energy requirements for babies, and that in the beginning of life, in the first few months of life, we talked about that babies need a significant amount of energy to grow, but that amount decreases a lot. We talked about, again, that babies triple their weight in the first year of life, but don't triple the weight again till they're about 9 years of age, which means that in the second year of life, children are not hungry like they used to be in the first year of life. Yet the parents who got used to their babies eating well want them to continue to eat well, and now kids don't want to eat. So what do you do when a mother of a, say, 15-month-old comes to you and says, my kid is not eating anything. You know, all they want to eat is, if maybe I can get them to eat some potato, but they don't even want that. So we talked a little bit about that and maybe how to approach that, but I think that's an important question that needs to be addressed more in the future. We went through different components of infant and young child's diet. I want to make another point. It seems that babies are getting a lot of cow milk, even in the first year of life. The recommendation of the World Health Organization is to allow babies to get some cooked milk at 9 months of age. This is different from the recommendation of the American Academy of Pediatrics, where there is no milk, no cow milk allowed until the baby is over 12 months old. And there are some problems associated with that. And one of the problems that we talked about, and Dr. Beckelbaum talked about, and other people, is anemia, right? We also talked about that anemia is very prevalent in, for instance, Tallinn. Again, thank you to Dr. Demircan who did that study. In fact, half the children under 18 months of age were anemic in the studies that were done. So we talked about that, and we had an interesting discussion, the little discussion that we did have about when to supplement iron with iron and when to test for anemia. We agreed that 9 months of age is the time to do that. We also talked about that whereas the cutoff is 110 grams per liter, right? It really depends on what the child is eating. And so if you have a 9-month-old that's only eating potatoes or is eating a lot or getting a lot of cow milk and is not getting meats, right? Then maybe they do need to be supplemented, but at least you need to consider that and try to help the parents change the diet. And so we also talked about introduction of solids, and that introduction of solids needs to be started with meats as much as possible so that it will help to deal with anemia. We also talked about growth faltering and what happens when you are worried that the child has stunting. Again, based on what Dr. Demircan talked about, it seems that children are getting weight measured for weight, height, and head circumference until they're about 1. And after that, they neither show up, nor when they do show up, do they get measured. And I said that I wouldn't, without the growth chart, I would personally have a very difficult time knowing exactly what to do for a number of different reasons. One is that you want to be able to identify stunting early, and it's difficult to identify if the child is stunted if you don't have a growth chart, and especially if you don't have an accurate growth chart. So we talked about a little bit early about what can be done about that. We talked about that if you have growth chart, and if you have weight, height, and head circumference, how you can approach just looking at the growth chart and try to identify what the problem is. Is the problem that the child has some sort of a genetic problem? Is it an endocrine problem? Is it something related to poor nutrition or malabsorption or diarrhea? Then we finished up talking a little bit more about anemia and stunting. We pointed out that, very interestingly, Susanna pointed out that very interestingly, in Tallinn, in a rural area, poor hygiene, so mother not washing hands and mother not washing the hands of her child, was found to be related by Dr. Demircan to stunting. And that the mechanism for that may not be poor nutrition, but rather have chronic overgrowth with pathogenic bacteria in the gut or other problems with the gut that either prevent proper absorption and utilization of energy, or that energy going to the bacteria rather than to the baby. And so so parasites and poor, and diarrhea and possibly poor hygiene should therefore be very important issues when you are concerned about a child who's not growing adequately in height. And that's pretty much what we were able to cover, and I thank everybody who showed up.
Պիտի փորձեմ հայերենով գոնե սկիզբ ասեմ, Խորհրդություն եմ խնդրում աշխույժ լեզվից համար, բայց ասի շատ զգայուն եւ շատ անձնական էմոցիոներով եմ ասելու ցես, որ ես սկսել եմ Հայաստան գալ 91 թվականից։ Ասել եմ, որ 25 տարի հետևի ամեն տարի եկել եմ ինչ-որ մի փոքր կամ ինչ-որ մի մեծ աշխատանքով։ Ես որ եկա 93 թիվ, եկա 1 տարով ապրելու եւ աշխատելու ու մնացի ես 4 տարի։ 93-ից 97 թվին ուրեմն հետևի շարունակաբար ես ապրել եմ ստեղ։ Ստեղ մոտ աշխատել եմ համալսարանում, ստեղ մոտիկ եմ ապրել։ Առանց գազ ջուրը սովորել եմ այդ լևի գիծ քաշելը։ Չէ, ծափարը ինչի համար, որտեղ ես այսքան քիչ եմ հասկանում ձեր դժվարականքը, որտեղ ես միշտ ունեցել եմ ամերիկյան փասպորտը, ու ես գիտեի, որ ամենադժվար բանին ես կարամ թռնել ետ։ Եվ չեմ ուզում ասեմ, որ ցես ինչ-որ հասկանում եմ, կամ նույնիսկ չեմ ուզում ասեմ, որ ձեր կյանքն եմ ապրել, որտեղ փող ունեի քրբանես, այնադանեն, որ ձեր ընտանիքները օրից օր չէիք իմանում ինչա կատարվելու հաջորդ օրը ձեր ընտանիքներից, եւ գիտեմ, որ ձեր ընտանիքներից մի մասը կամ մեծ մասը գնացել են ուրիշ երկիրները, որտեղ անկարելի էր այդ օրերին վեր ապրել եւ ընտանիքին բախել։ Այդ ամեն ինչը իմանալով այդ անբավությունը, որ ունենք եւ ինչ խոսք, նոր ապրի մեկից, ապրի երկուսից, որ նորից պատերազմը սկսավ եւ վախերում մեջ ենք մտել, որ նորից գուցե վերադառնա այն օրերին, որ Աստված գիտե, չէ՞։ Ես այդ ամեն ինչ լինելով, ես ուզում եմ ցեզ անկեղծորեն չիմ բարը հայերենով չի բավարարվում, անկեղծորեն, սիրտորեն, ասեմ, որ ինչքան հպարտանում եմ, ինչքան ուրախանում եմ, որ դուք այսքան գործ եք անում, այսքան քիչ ռեսուրսներով, այսքան գործ եք արել, ինչքան մեծ փոփոխություններ կան 93 թվից, ինչքան փոփոխություններ, ճիշտ է, որ չկա արիթը, մենք սպրկահայերից, որ գալիս ենք ստեմ, ամեն ամառը մի հատ դուն ունենք, մեր ընտանիքը դունը կարոցել Սևանումի գյուղում, որպեսզի երեխեքս ծանոթ լինեն Հայաստանի գյուղի կյանքը ամեն տարի, հետևաբար այդ գյուղի մեջ ենք նստած ու ուզում եմ ասել չի եղել մի սուրճ խմելու արիթը կամ չի եղել, որ թաքսին չմտնեն, որ թաքսին կամ այդ գյուղացի կանայքը ասեն, այս երկիրը չի, բայց դա սխալ է։ Այսինքն այդ մոմենտին գիսել մի հատ սպիրկահային հետ է, որ եկել է Նյու Յորքից, հասկանում եմ այդ զգացմունքը, բայց նա ինչ երկիրն եք դուք ստեղծել այստեղ, ինչ գործերն եք անում, ինչքան առաջ եք գնացել։ Բայց հակառակը, որ շատ է փոխել ու շատ ավելի թեպի լավ որոշ հատուկ օրինակներն է, որ կարելի է ցույց տալի, թեր շատ կա անելու։ Եվ մենք եկել ենք այդ եզրակացությունը այս կոնֆերենցին, որ թեր շատ կա անելու։ Հիմա հասեմ, ես պետք է ամփոփեմ մեր այսօրվա breakout session-ին, որ ես եւ Շարոնը մենք պիտի խոսեինք, մտածեցինք, որ խոսենք Ամերիկայի փորձառությունը, որ ինչպես food-based guidelines, ասինքն հասկանում եք ինձ, որ ինչպես ենք ստեղծել այնտեղից։ Եվ ես 2-3 օր առաջ նոր եմ իմացել, որ Հայաստանում 2008 թվից, եթե չեմ սխալվում, որ է Վարդանուշը ստեղ է, ու 2008 թվից մի հատ հանձնախումբ նա ստեղծվել եւ ահագին դա 3 տարի կորձն են իրենք արել, որովհետեւ այդ գայդլայնները ստեղծվին հետազոտություններով, մեթոդներով, ոզին հետ, ոզի հսկողության տակ եւ այլն։ Այսինքն առաջին խոչընդոտներից մեկը, որ ես զգացի այս մի շաբաթը, այն է, որ ամեն մեկս աշխատում ենք մի գլխին վրա, այսինքն ես թարգմանում եմ անգլերենից, բայց մենք չենք իմանում, մենք ինչ իրար ենք անցկացնում։ Ես նոր այսօր, ես ինչքան ես զգում եմ, որ տեղեկացված եմ, որոշ պրեզենտացիաները լրիվ նոր են ինձ համար։ Ձեզ համար ով կար, որ չեն իմացել ինչ որ անում է COAF-ը կամ World Vision-ը կամ HOF-ը, ով էր, որուն համար էր նորությունը որոշ բաներ այսօր։ Ճիշտ ձեր Հայաստանում։ Ու ամեն գազագերբությունը իրենց մամուլով փորձում են հադարել, բայց դժվար է հասկանալ ամեն մեկը ինչ անում, որտեղ մենք ինչ ենք անում։ Նույնպես Նյու Յորքում մենք մեր օրերը անցկացնում ենք շատ սպաղված, օրը 24 ժամը չի բավարարվում մեր աշխատանքներու համար, բայց այդ խոչընդոտներից մեկն է, որ մենք չենք կիսվում, մենք իրար հետը այն աշխատանքները, որ անում են, որպեսզի կոորդինացված ձևով շարժվենք առաջ։ Մենք լսեցինք օրինակ Վարդանուշից, որ ինչպես այդ հանձնախումբը ինչ արդյունքներն ա բերել, բայց տակամին հակառակավոր հաստատվելը չի տարածվել, չի օգտագործվում այդ ուղեցումները։ Եվ հետո միայն 5 րոպե մնաց, որ մենք տայինք Մարինե Մելքոմովային, ուր ես Մարինե, որ մերսի, կներես, ժամանակը քիչ էր, բայց ես նորից ասեմ, մենք ես անձամբ չեմ իմացել, որ regulation ոնց են ասում։ Կա սնունդը դպրոցներու համար։ Օրենքը չի, բայց ինչ-որ ուղեցումը գա, որ նորից հաստատված է, բայց ես օրինակ տեղյակված չէի, որ այդպիսի գոյություն, այդպիսի աշխատանքը գա։ Հիմա հասկանում ենք, որ թյուրին է օրենք ստեղծելը, դժվար է օրենքը կատարել կամ հսկողության դա կշարունակել և փոփոխություններ անել։ Այդքան եմ ուզում ասեմ, որ այդ առաջին խոչընդոտներիցն է, և ես ուզում եմ հիմա փոխանցեմ մեր մասնագետներից միջազգային Dr. Richard Deckelbaum և Dr. Omar Dari, որ իրենք ընդհանուր առմամբ խոսան խոչընդոտների մասին, ըստ հատուկ Nutrition Programming and Planning, իրենց միջազգային փորձարարություններից, և հետո իրենք պիտի խնդրեմ, որ դուք պատմեք մեզ ձեր հատուկ խոչընդոտները և տեսնենք, եթե ապական մենք կարանք համագործակցենք, որպեսզի մի փոքր քչացնենք այդ խոչընդոտները, եթե հնարավոր է։ Մերսի։
So we have a bit of a surprise. It would be a bit different than the way Kim just said what we're going to do this session. And so what are we going to do? We've just had 1.5 days of really excellent discussions about the nutrition problems internationally, the nutrition problems in Armenia, and what type of steps do we need for solutions. So it's very nice we can make a list of all these steps we need for implementation and nutrition programs. But there's barriers. There's barriers. So we're going to start off this session by you, all of us here. I'll get up. I want the audience and participants to tell us what you think are the barriers to implementing nutrition programs. You can think of it both internationally, but maybe focus on Armenia. And we'll write them down, okay, on the board. Then maybe, no, that'll be step one. Step two is Dr. Dari is going to give a short presentation with slides on barriers when we introduce, we want to introduce nutrition programs. And then we're going to have a discussion with all the participants on how to get around the barriers. So let's start. I'm going to write
Volunteers to do the writing?
Okay.
To write it in Armenian.
So
You know what?
Dr. Dari said that I talk and he's going to do the writing on the board. That's probably good because my handwriting is terrible. And
You can write in English, but I'm going to get somebody to write it in Armenian.
this will work. Okay. So we're open to what are the barriers to implementing nutrition programs. And there's a hand right here in row 2. And can everyone please state their name? This is
Vardanır. It's a bit long for Vardanır.
okay.
Համայնքից Վարդանուշ, ես սննդաբան եմ ու քանի որ ես ինքս զբաղվել եմ այս ուղեկցիչների զարգացմամբ, դրա համար երևի անձամբ ավելի կոնկրետ կարող եմ ասել այն բարդություններն ու արգելքները, որը ճանապարհին մենք ունեցել ենք։ Ամենաառաջինը մենք չունենք մարմին, որը որ մշակի ռազմավարություն ու հետևի պրոցեսներին։ Այսինքն մենք չունենք ոչ կառավարական մարմին, որը դրանով զբաղվում է, չունենք ոչ կառավարական մարմին, որը դրանով զբաղվում է։ Երկրորդ
Սասի Թողերյան, Արանչինը չէ, Սասի Արանչինի հետո։
Երկրորդ
The first one, yeah.
is absolute
There's no entity which is being responsible for
Ես
follow-up.
տեսնում եմ, որ գրում են լակը, մենք ոչ թե ունենք լակը, մենք ունենք բացակայություն, ոչ թե քիչ ունենք, շատ բարի մոտեցում։ Երկրորդը, որ մենք չունենք ոչ մի հետազոտություն, հաստատված հարցաշարերով Հայաստանի ազգաբնակչության մեծ ծավալների փաստացի սնուցման։
With approved what?
Food consumption survey about lack of education, nutrition consumption.
Is Omar right? He has his back to me. I mean, I have my back to him. I can. Is he writing in Armenian? Does he pick up Armenian?
Երրորդը մասնագետների քանակի քչությունն է, այսինքն նույնիսկ մեր բժշկական պետական համալսարանում չկա դիետոլոգիայի կամ սննդաբանության ոչ բաժին, ոչ ֆակուլտետ, ոչ դասընթաց, այսինքն մեր բժիշկները չունեն, իրենք բժիշկները չունեն կրթություն, մասնագիտական կրթություն, գոնե ինչ-որ բան իմանալու համար, միակ գիտելիքը, որ բժշկական համալսարանում ստանում է, դա հիգիենայի ամբիոնում սննդի հիգիենայի բաժինն է։ Ու բնականաբար մենք չունենք վերապատրաստում, չունենք հետ կրթական մասնագիտացում։ Ստիպված ասենք, օրինակ ես սովորել եմ Հայաստանի սահմաններից դուրս։ Հաջորդը
No, you can think of some more while we give some other people a chance.
Ես կարամ վերջում ասեմ, բոլորը ասեն, հա,
Just, yeah, I have a list here too of some of the things I thought of. And one of the things that's interesting in Armenia, really interesting, is that nutrition is really handled by the medical doctor community. And that's very different than other countries. And just like our medical schools in North America, about very few of them teach proper nutrition. It's the same worldwide. And then sort of the doctors become the respective leaders and have to pick it up on their own in whichever way they find to do it. Okay, let's have some more barriers. Sorry, you have to say your name, please. We have 3 very good ones so far.
Ես բարձր կխոսեմ։
Եթե կարելի է
Ես բարձր կխոսեմ, լավ, լսելի ձայնս։ Հա։
եւ ցերանունը եւ ցեր
մասնագիտությունը։
Let's make sure that everyone does this short steps, like not to really have. We'll have the discussion later. Let's just name the problem first.
Այո, խոչընդոտն եմ ասում ուղղակի, ես Ղափանցան Դոլորես կենսաբան բիոքիմիկ եւ դպրոցից եմ, ես ուսուցիչ եմ։
1 second, the microphone's not working, so we can't get translation.
Ստացվեց արդեն, կարող եմ խոսել։
No, not yet.
Ուրեմն այսպես, հա, այն հիմա արդեն լսվում է։
Okay.
Ուրեմն ինձ թվում է ամենամեծ խնդիրը, որ մենք ունենք Հայաստանի Հանրապետությունում, դա աղքատությունն է։ Աղքատությունը պետք է վերացնել։ Եվ ես այս հարցը կդնեի ամենավերին տեղում։ Մի պետություն, որտեղ աղքատությունը 30%-ից ավել է կազմում, այդ պետության մեջ սնուցման խնդիրը, սակավարյունության խնդիրը,
Let's just name the barrier, and then we'll have the discussion later. Just let's get a list of the problems.
Աղքատությունը, որպես խոչընդոտ սնուցման խնդիրների վերացման համար, եւ կրթությունը, կրթության խնդիրը որպես խոչընդոտ, կրթվածության, ոչ թե կրթության, այլ կրթվածության խնդիրը ազգաբնակչության։ Շնորհակալություն։
Right. Okay, thank you. Sorry, is the microphone on?
Եվա Մովսիսյան, երեխաների եւ դեռահասների առողջության ինստիտուտ, ես կցանկանայի 2 մեծ խոչընդոտ նշեի, մեկը դա համագործակցության պակասն է եւ տեղեկատվության փոխանակման հետ կապված խնդիրները, քանի որ մենք շատ լսեցինք շատ տարբեր զեկույցներ, տարբեր ինֆորմացիա ստացանք, տարբեր կազմակերպությունները ինչ տեսակի ծրագրեր են իրականացնում եւ ստացվում է, որ շատ կազմակերպություններ անում են տարբեր ծրագրեր, նույն ոլորտում են աշխատում, բայց շատ դեպքերում ինֆորմացիայի փոխանակումը լիարժեք չէ եւ նույնիսկ կազմակերպությունների եւ բուժհաստատությունների միջև եւ կառավարական, ոչ կառավարական կառույցների միջև, էլ չասած իհարկե շարքային բուժաշխատողներին այդ ինֆորմացիայի հասանելիության հետ կապված խնդիրը։ Երևի թե պետք է նշենք, որ դա ամենամեծ խնդիրներից մեկն է եւ պետք է համագործակցությունը մի քիչ ուժեղացվի։
Thank you. Lack of what? And just added to the lack of distribution of information. Okay, there's...
Գոհար Ջերվաշյան, Մանկաբարձություն հիմիկալոգիա և միանատալոգիա ամսագրի գործադիր խմբագիր։ Հարցը, որ ես ուզում եմ բարձրացնել, մի քիչ ավելի գլոբալ է, հատուկ չէ միայն Հայաստանին, եւ խոսքս վերաբերում է սննդակարգին ոչ ապացուցողական բժշկության մոտեցումները։ Մասնավորապես օրինակ եմ ուզում բերել ամերիկյան սննդային ուղեցույցներով հաստատված 3 բաժակ յուղազերծ կաթի խմելու խնդիրը, որը հանձնարարական է երեխաների համար, բայց պարզվում է ճարպազերծ կամ անյուղ 3 բաժակ կաթ խմող երեխաները ավելի ջեր են, ավելի ճարպակալած են, obես, քան չխմող կամ քիչ բայց յուղայնությունը տեղը կաթ խմող երեխաները։ Ասածս ինչին է վերաբերում, որ հանձնարարականները, որոնք մշակվում են, պետք է իսկապես գիտականորեն ապացուցված հենք ունենան եւ երկարաժամկետ ուսումնասիրության արդյունքում ձեռք բերված լինել։ Խոսք երկրորդ նկատառում է նաեւ սնուցիչների հանձնարարելի քանակները, մասնավորապես ընդամենը մի քանի տարի առաջ D-վիտամինի հանձնարարելի օրական քանակը, որը հանձնարարվում էր, հավանաբար ես թիվը ճշգրիտ չհիշեմ, ներողություն խնդրեմ։
Excuse me, just please identify the problem without going into a discussion. After we'll come back to discussions.
Ճշգրտումը հանձնարարելի օրական քանակների սնուցիչների վերաբերյալ։ Դա պակաս է, որովհետև եթե դու չգիտես թե ինչքան պետք է ճիշտը սնվես, պահանջը շատ է, թվում է թե դու քիչ ես սնվել, բայց եւ առողջական խնդիրներ ունես կամ հակառակը։ Ցածր է օրական հանձնարարելի քանակը, այդքան է ստանում համարելով, որ դա նորմալ է եւ շատ է ստանում։
Yeah, I have them. Okay, there's up here in front.
Գենադի Բալոժյան, ես կնկարագրեի ևս մի քանի խնդիրներ, որոնց կարող լինել։ Եթե խոսքը գնում է երեխաների մասին, ապա տարբերակներից մեկը, որ շատ երեխաներ հսկվում են տատիկների, պապիկների կողմից եւ հինավոճ իրանց փորձով են շարունակում սնուցվել։ Դա առաջինն է։ Երկրորդը դա խոչընդոտ է, որ տատիկներ, պապիկները կրթություն այդքան չունեն, իրազեկված չեն։ Երկրորդը կարելի է անվանել այն խնդիրը, որ ծնողները շատ ժամանակ զբաղված են եւ երեխան տրամադրված է ինքնին։ Այդ իսկ պատճառով երեխան սնվում է կոպիտ ասած նրանով, ինչին իրար հատկացած է գումար։ Տատիկների, պապիկների կողմից սնուցումը։ Ընտանեկան այո տրադիցիաներ։ Եվս մեկ խնդիր, որ ես կնկարագրեի, նույնպես դպրոցականների շրջանում, եւ երեխաները նայում են իրենց շրջապատին, այսինքն տեսնում եք թե ինչ անում կողքի երեխան, գուցե ավելի հարուստ ընտանիքից, գուցե մի քիչ ավելի աղքատ ընտանիքից, եւ սկսում է սնվել նույնպես։ Իր համար դա դառնում է ինչ-որ մի սխալ վարկագիծ, թե ինչ-որ ոնց է տարբեր նմանվելու ինչ-որ մի տարբերակ։ Այսինքն տեսնում է երեխան, որ կողքի երեխան ամբողջ օրը սնվում է խաչակուրիով, խոսում է։
Please don't go into discussion. Just say what the barrier is, and then we'll have the discussion later.
Richard, I'm really sorry.
Sorry, I have to be a bit tough because we have to finish today.
Georgia, ես խնդրում եմ, հազար ներողություն եմ խնդրում։ Ուղղակի երրորդ անգամ եմ արդեն կրկնում։ Խոսում ենք հստակ, առանց մեկնաբանությունների, ուղղակի խոչընդոտ սնուցման ծրագրերի իրականացման, իրագործման համար։ Մասնավոր դետալներ, մասնավոր օրինակներ, ինչ որ մեկնաբանություններ պետք է չի։ Երրորդ անգամ արդեն եմ։
Thank you, Humbert. Please.
My name is Gora Arab Medical Center. Մեկ այլ կողմից ծրագրերի տեղայնացումն է անհրաժեշտ, որպեսզի խմչադատներ չլինեն։ Որոշ դեպքերում ոչ բոլոր ծրագրերն են տեղայնացվում եւ դա եւս խոչընդոտ է հանդիսանում ծրագրերի արդյունավետ իրականացման համար։
Good point.
Իրավարության ծանրական բժիշկ, սննդի որակը եւ ծագումը։
Մարդանյան Ասյան Տալիբերից ես աշխատում եմ սահմանամերձ շրջանում, Տաուշի մարզի, ներքին կարմիր այգեպար եւ Ֆոզինում ընտանեկան բժիշկ եմ եւ սնման նորմալ համարում է ոչ խաղաղ պայմանները, լարված սահմանապահ, սահմանամերձ գյուղերի երեխաների վիճակը, որ պետք ժամանակին չեն կարողանում հավաքել եւ դա չհավաքել նման պայմաններ։
So that's a good point. Political violence.
Yeah.
Արամ Գրիգորյան, Արսաթ կենտրոն, ինչպես որ այլ շատ կարևոր եւ ռազմավարական նշանակություն ունեցող հարցերից մեկը սա, պետք է անել այդ բանը, որը դեռ լիակատար չի կատարվել, պետք է հաստատել, ուսումնասիրել լավագույն փորձը եւ առաջարկել պետական ստանդարտներ։ Շնորհակալություն։
So we have to define what are the best practices and what should be the state's standards.
Իմ կարծիքով աշխատավարձը ցածր լինելը, թե բժիշկների, թե ուսուցիչների, թե բուժքույրերի։ Երկրորդը Հայաստանի ոչ այնքան դեմոկրատական լինելը, ասենք դպրոցի տնօրենը կարող է իր բուֆետն ունենա, ու այդտեղ շահույթ է, տակնդի ինչ ուզեններ վաճառի են։ Եվ երրորդը, ես կարծում եմ ընդհանրապես դրվածքում մի ինչ-որ սկզբունքային սխալ կա, պոլիկլինիկաներում աշխատող դոցենտ կամ պրոֆեսոր չեք տեսնի, նրանք աշխատում են կլինիկական հիվանդանոցներում, որտեղ որ ինչքան հիվանդները շատ, այնքան նյութապես լավ են։ Ես ինչքան էլ տեղամասային բժիշկները առողջ ապրելակերպի քարոզը տանեն, մեկը 100% չեն կարող հիվանդություն կանխեն, նրանք գնում են պրոֆեսորի բանի մոտ, պրոֆեսորներն էլ այդ մասին ձեր չեն անում, բուժում են ճամփային դնում։ Նրանք խոսքը ավելի մեծ գին ունենում, քան տեղական բժիշկինը։
So disparities within the health professions.
Ուստեղ երկու կարևոր խոչընդոտ է նշել, մեկը կոմերցիոն ազդեցությունները, սկսած մկատնախառնուրդների կոմերցիայից վերջացրած չիպսերի ու կոլայի կոմերցիայով, և երկրորդը միկրոսնուցողական նյութերի մասին, միկրոնյութերների տվյալների իսպար բացակայությունը Հայաստանում։
The status, right?
Current status.
I have a couple, but I'm not going to add them now. I think we have a good starting list, and what I suggest now is we'll hear from Dr. Derry, which will give us some more ideas, and then we'll try to synthesize this into the different sectors that we've heard about, which include things like no information or misinformation, education, who's doing it, role of government versus non-government, etc. So we'll now hear Dr. Derry's presentation, and then we'll go on to discussing these after his presentation.
This has been a really interesting exercise, and I think every one of us has started enjoying it. And this is still the exercise is going to come, because now we only present the limitations and some factors that are not allowing Armenia to have a better health for the population. But I'm going to tell you that this type of exercise has been done in many, many countries for many, many years. What I'm going to present is trying to systematize what UNICEF did 25 years ago. And for some of you that are working in public health nutrition, which is different to the clinical part, probably what I'm going to present is something repetitive. But that is something that is important for our posterior analysis. I was with insomnia last night, and then in the morning I woke at 4 a.m. and I decided to do something for today. That's what I'm going to present. On past Saturday, Kim brought us to this to this beautiful fortress that you have in these nice mountains in the northwest. And I put this is like a barrier. It's very difficult to conquer that part. But it was done. It was done several times in different periods of the historical life of Armenia. Now let me go to this scheme. What are the overall causes that determine the quality or not quality of the physical, mental, and emotional development that we call good nutrition? Because we don't have another word. When we are talking about good nutrition, we are not talking only about nutrition. We are talking about the development of the human being. That includes the three sectors, include the physical, the mental, and the emotional. For doing that, we need to have several factors that these colleagues from UNICEF 25 years ago, they summarize in three areas that they call the immediately causes of undernutrition, they call that. Those are the nutrient intakes, those are the health status, and those are the self-esteem and motivation. What happened after they published this, and the references there at the bottom, many of us working in health or in nutrition, we have a very biological mind. And the care part, we forgot that. And we call the care part either nutrition care or health care, but has disappeared in the way we really are treating the new generation. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm recovering care as care. Care is not health care or nutrition care, it's care. Because that is part of what Dr. John was telling us, we need activity, we need physical exercise in order to have muscles, in order to have bones. I mean, we should not really avoid the part of this ecology. Below the nutrient intake, we need to have food security, which includes macronutrients and micronutrients. If that fails for any reason, then we have complementary delivery systems. That is what we have for certification, supplementation, or other things. In the health status, we have some activities that are for preventing disease. We need safe water and food. We need healthy environments. But anyway, we live in an environment that is also always attacking us. So there are other living beings that they see 6 billion of human beings to attack and eat, and then they are going to attack anyway. That's why we need to wait to have something to recover the health or treat diseases, health services and immunization and other things. In the part of care, we need the mother-child interaction, we need the family and community interaction. Someone mentioned that having the children taken care by the grandparents could be a limitation or could be an advantage. I mean, not necessarily a limitation if those grandparents have some education. At least they are there. The problem is if the kids are going to be alone, or if the kids are going to be in the hands of the older kids, that is will be even worse than the grandparents. But all of these things are interacting. Below all of these things, we have the underlying and the basic causes of undernutrition, which are the production and income generation. If there is not resources, if the salaries are low, no matter is the professionals or the families in the rural areas, all the ones at the top are not going to take. That is very important, to have a sufficient salary. We need institutional support. If there is not a leadership institution, there is no way that this is going to advance. If there is not coordination, there is not collaboration among the institutions, also there is nothing that also is very difficult to advance. We need national policies and the economic structure of the country. Someone mentioned about norms and standards. We need national resources and international agreements. The battles with Azerbaijan or the battles with Turkey, those are really limiting the country to progress. If you put all of this in context, then we can immediately understand why there are stunting, why there is anemia, why it's more in the rural areas, because that makes sense. But can you see there is many actors that need to intervene? And all these actors are going to be reflected in one simple indicator, in the growth of the kids of the population. I mean, it's not only one, it's that all of them working together. But we cannot work in all of them at the same time. We are in the nutrition sector at this moment, and we know that we are only part of the solution, and many others need to act, and we need to be responsible of that section. And I'm saying so because I'm coming from another country. It's not a rich country originally. I'm from Guatemala, and I was working in Institute of Nutrition of Central America and Panama, and we saw that really trying to improve nutrition in the country, we need all of these aspects. And then the nutritionists started saying, because nutrition is multi-factor, all of these things need to work, and as a consequence, they did not do nutrition. That means everyone is having now the responsibility, and I'm making that responsibility for everyone, but the nutritionists were forgetting the things that they need to do. I mean, we need, in the system, part of the responsibility, let's do that right, and let others to work in their own areas. Others are going to work in agriculture, in the roads, in the hygiene, and all of those together we are going to make the country to progress. This was done 25 years ago by the UNICEF colleagues. But let me talk a little more. This is the same thing, but in another simple way. What are the immediately factors of good nutrition? And they summarize in three. We need to have good food, good health, and good care. That's the three important parts. In foods, we have macronutrients, energy, protein, essential fatty acids, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, and others. And also we have the micronutrients that, despite the name is small amounts, we need those, and the interesting part is that they are supplied by different food groups. And that is why we need the fruits, we need the meats, we need the milk, we need the fish, and others. We cannot have only one type, because they are going to provide vitamins and minerals. At the bottom part, the foods are also providing things that probably at this time we don't know what is the usefulness of those. They are providing us with protective substances for our health, antioxidants, that is the red wine in part. We have the onion, the garlic that we use as a flavor in things, but also they have some type of compounds that make our liver to synthesize enzymes that are going to destroy toxins. I mean, despite that they are classified as nutrients, those are good for us. We need oligosaccharides that we don't digest, and we call those prebiotics, because they are going to tell our microbiota in the gut to do some battle against the pathogenic bacteria. You see, all of these we receive from the foods. In the health part, we have the hygienic environment, safe water, because if the water is contaminated, we are going to have diseases. And an episode of diarrhea could destroy several months of growth in the kids. Immunization in order to prevent the diseases. If we are sick, we need to have hospitals, clinics for the treatment of the sick. We need medicines. We need the control of the contaminants, heavy metals, residues, pesticide residues, the carbon monoxide that the people smoke or producing in the cities, all of this part. In the care is the stimulation to the kid that plays, that goes under the sun, that really feels with self-esteem, with confidence, physical activity, the interaction with the mother, kids and mother, with the siblings, with the community, with the grandparents. And all of these things are going to make nutrition. But in this meeting, we are talking about vitamins and minerals. We also talk a little about stouting, but really, if you can see what all the different factors, and we need to focus only on one. This is our point here. And although foods, and in this case, all the nutrients, the foods are insufficient to good nutrition, they are still important. That is why we are in this meeting together. I mean, despite all these factors, let's put attention to the nutrients, because that no one else in any other stuff are going to look at that. No the agriculture, no the economists, no the engineers. That is the responsibility of the nutritionists. Okay, now let's move. In the same article for UNICEF 25 years ago, when they presented this graph, and this picture of this scheme is now repeated by UNICEF, by WHO, by USAID, by everyone. If you see, it's more or less the same, with the exception of care. But now that you know where is the origin, please put back care. But they did something very interesting. Now we are going to move into programs. And they create the AAA approach. Some of you are more or less the same age that I am. And a long time ago we said the AAA. The new generation is not repeating the AAA. And now we need to resurrect that. What is the meaning of that? It's assessment, analysis, and action. Because we forgot that, the people start doing actions without knowing why the action is. That is why persons as I come to the countries and say you need to introduce supplementation. You need to introduce this thing, and we are not asking the local context. If that solution can work in another continent, is going to work. We don't know that, because we need first to do the assessment. What are the problems of the country that let's not let in the society to develop well? It could be food, it could be health, or it could be care. And what are the reasons? Once we identify the reasons, we can think in the solutions. But if we don't identify the problems, there is no reason we are going to solve the problems. In this morning, we learned several things. I'm going to summarize and we'll make mistakes, but let me tell you my own appreciation for one morning of the information that we received. In Armenia, it's a problem of anemia. It's there. Could be that it's not accurately measured, but there is anemia. Now the question is, why is anemia? Is nutrition, is health, is care, is genetics? Which is important to find out. This is some problem of stunting. And despite the errors in the measurements, stunting has not been reduced. It's even probably becoming worse. And after the explanation of this war in 1993 and all these problems of the economy, that this is clear that something happened that at the end you perceive in the reduction of the height of the children. This morning was impressive, the prevalence of diabetes, the prevalence of not communicable diseases, that those are not matching with the quality of the diet. The diet is not too bad. And then why is that? Dr. Richard Deckelman was saying you need to look a little to the genetics, because it's possible that. I will say also you need to look a little to the dental care. If this Saturday, when we went outside or Sunday, the dental care is terrible. And having these caries and losses of the teeth, that is also having some problem in non-communicable diseases. It looks like there's no relationship, but there is. I mean, these are a series of problems that the country needs to identify. Try to look for the causes of those situations. That is the assessment. After the assessment is the analysis. I know now these are my problems. How I'm going to solve those problems of the barriers. Are those solutions that I'm trying to identify, are they feasible? I mean, it's possible under the culture and the conditions of the countries to implement. Because I can identify a very nice solution, but it's impossible to implement under the context. Are those solutions potentially efficacious? It has very large coverage. It really is reaching the population. For example, I can give supplements, but if the supplements only are going to reach 1% of the population, that's not working. I mean, this is something that you need to look. Are those mechanisms efficient? It is possible to have those mechanisms sustainable. This is the type of analysis that we need to do before we take action. I mean, the action needs to come as a result of that analysis. And at the center of this graph is monitoring and evaluation. When is the monitoring impact of everything that you are doing? In the morning we saw very beautiful programs at the school level, how the different canteens have been improved. There is where also some new installations in the clinical centers for nutrition education with those videos and all these things. Everything looks nice. But now is how so effective are those? Someone is measuring if there is change in the behavior, the condition conditions of the kids are improving, that is part of the monitoring. And once we do all of this, we can adjust whatever is the strategy that we selected, and we start the cycle again. That means monitoring should be something forever. The data and the monitoring. But in all the countries I have visited, almost no one does these things. There is funds for implementing activities, but there is not funds for assessment, and there are not funds for monitoring, and there are not funds for evaluation. But we need to change, and we need to talk with UNICEF, with WHO, with USAID, and telling, please, this is also important. And it's not only implementing activity. Okay, this, what I'm saying, is in the chart, and that was done by a person I'm going to present in a minute. The conclusion of this analysis I'm doing is, before acting, we need to characterize the problem, the prevalence, the magnitude, and the severity. Because in the society we are going to find thousands of problems. But in public health, we cannot address all of at the same time. We need to focus on those that are the most important, because we need to correct the society. When the problem is individual, that's a clinical treatment. That is, we try to avoid that the problem is so large that destroy the economy of the country. When it's individual, let's do the hospitals and the physicians with. But in this case, we're looking in populations. We need to identify the causes, as well as to analyze the acceptance, the feasibility, and the programmatic viability of the potential solutions. Okay? Who was behind all of these things? He passed away a few weeks ago in Tanzania, and this person, I don't know if you remember, but I'm presented to them. It's due to his brain that we have this very systematic way of seeing the things. Okay, now let's look from efficacy to program effectiveness. Like is the evidence, our colleague was saying, there is not evidence. Sometimes the evidence is at the level of an experiment. That is what we call the proof of concept. Those are experiments done under controlled situations. But efficacy, which is here, to the top right, does not mean programmatic effectiveness. When the things are working in the other extreme, which is in our left, to have a program that is safe, is efficient, and is permanent. That's the goal in public health nutrition, and any public health in any case. How the experiments and efficacy, we move to effectiveness. But if you can see effectiveness is in the other side of the circle. For that, we need first the policies, because we select the policies accordingly with the national context. Once we have that, we enact standards, regulations, because we need certain ways and guidelines that tell everyone that is working how to operate well. But having the standard is not sufficient. That standard, that norm needs to be applicable. We need the implementation. We need the inputs, the materials, the process. But that's not sufficient. Who is supervising that the quality of that standard has been implemented is all right? That is what we need. We need to have internal controls and external controls. But that's not sufficient. We need to assess if whatever we are trying to reach the population is really delivering. We need to have access, if the population accept whatever we are going to give to them, and if the population is having adherence to whatever is our standard. When we go to do all these things, we go and we measure impact evaluation. Because we are talking about nutrition, we need to measure what is the change of intake, what is the change in biomarkers, and what are the change in the clinical and functional signs. It could be positive or could be negative. That means we are trying to be in benefit, but we don't know many things. That is why we need to have the implementation, the impact evaluation. When we have that, we can do cost effectiveness, and we start the circle again. And then we do monitoring, and we do evaluation, and we do adjustments. Okay, this is in principle of all of these things. And there are roles for many institutions. In many countries I have started, because it's nutrition, it's the Department of Nutrition who wants to do everything. That's not possible. Someone said that in the morning that the food safety is done by other groups, by agriculture, which is fine. I mean, someone needs to have that responsibility. but in coordination with health. Someone needs to do standards in coordination with certain other departments. Someone needs to do evaluation, probably the university. But what is important is to have the coordination, the collaboration, the exchange of information. And someone needs to leader this. And when I go and talk with the nutrition colleagues, probably the nutrition department thinks them as the brain. The brain is going to have everything coordinated on it. That's a sufficient responsibility. And really trying to identify and see what are the roles and responsibilities of everyone. Now summarizing, more or less we are going to analyze one per one those, but I'm trying to make it in genetic terms. What some of the barriers? We are failing to see the forest for paying attention only to the trees. Okay, that is very important. Our work probably is in one tree of the forest, but we can't see the absolute forest. I mean, we could pay attention to folic acid, but there are many things around that we need to have an interaction. That means it's not only that problem, it's how that problem comes together. We should avoid acting before proper assessment and analysis. I mean, first, identify the problem. Identify the causes, and if that problem is large, and it's important, let's look at it. If this little one, let the hospitals to deal with it, because we cannot really try to solve everything. There is little discussion to define institutional roles and responsibilities. It's little coordination. That is part of the barrier. Is insufficient attention to supervision and monitoring. We have standards, we think when the standards is done, everything is happy, but that's not the case. We need to supervise and we need to monitor the quality. And also identify that is there, is the usual inexistence of permanent nutritional surveillance systems. I mean, that does not exist. Not almost in any middle or low income countries, that does not exist. And then if that does not exist, how we are going to work? How we are going to adjust the program? And that's a summary of things. And as you can see, as you did this afternoon, many persons have thought the same. And now we are going to continue the exercise with the local proper context of Armenia, trying to identify which will be the possible solutions. Thank you.
We have the lights on. So I just looked at the board behind me, and I think, Dr. Dari, you covered all of those points. So let's see if you left one out. Poverty, which we can discuss, and I agree it's a big problem, but that goes with the economic development. And I would just add, not different from what we just heard, but perhaps points of emphasis. Nutrition can't exist in its own silo. In that, we really got to understand nutrition has to partner with the other sectors in planning, in the assessments, and we've heard this from Omar just now. But I think the important thing is the way we talk to our students or people we're training. So we can talk to the Minister of Health. We can talk to the Minister of Education. But they don't make the final decisions on the distribution of funds within many countries. And we really got to talk as well to the economists, the Minister of Economics, the Minister of Planning, to make them realize what they're losing by not addressing the problems we've been discussing in the last day and a half. And it's interesting. So this is a meeting. I'm going to ask everyone to raise their hands. Who's involved? No, let me change. I'll change it. Who is not directly involved in nutrition in this room? Pick up your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who is involved directly in nutrition in this room? So it's a bit of a mix, which I think, which is important. We just had a meeting 2-3 weeks ago with it was called a high-level panel of experts on food security of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And we did that survey at the end of the meeting. It was a very interesting meeting. 1/3 of the people were nutritionists, 1/3 were agronomists, and 1/3 were economists. And they were all in the same room. And it made a real difference. And this is the kind of thing I think that we also have to be moving towards, not just in Armenia, but in many countries. The other thing that I found fascinating with Dr. Dari's presentation, notice the date of when these slides came from, 26 years ago. So we don't have to really invent new wheels now. We have to use things that have been successful in many settings and use them here. So the other thing is, can we do all this all at once? Can we say, let's snap our fingers and in 1 year it's all going to be fixed? But we can't. So we have to really put in a time. What are the top priorities and step by step? What are the timelines? What are the essential first steps to get to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th steps? And what are the things, and Dr. Akabas mentioned this when we're sitting together, what are the things that we already have that we know can work and can work quickly? Not what can't work, but let's focus on some of the things that can be achieved in a relatively short time. And I think we talked about yesterday, one of the things you can really make a dent in, make a change in, is you can actually implement changes in micronutrient status fairly quickly from different types of programs. We've heard even in this meeting today of this morning, you know, and yesterday with the Armenian plate and the Armenian diet. Clearly, you don't get diet diversity and agricultural diversity by snapping your fingers. There's got to be planning with the Ministry of Agriculture, with access, transport of these things to where they have to get to the human. We call it the food value chain. The food value chain is generally defined by industry as from seed, or I guess a little fish embryo, to seed to mouth. But we're going beyond that now in the food value chain. We're going from seed to mouth to health. And that's what we have to be thinking about. And so what can we do practically to attract these barriers? What can we do so that we have another meeting a year from now, or 2 years from now, we can be discussing actually what has happened, not what should happen. So with those remarks, I invite comments from all of us now. Who would like to start off? Oh, this is the quietest the audience has been. Sharon.
Institute of Human Nutrition. At the meeting, Dr. Deckelbaum was talking about one of our colleagues. I'll try in Armenian.
Oh, okay. At the meeting, Dr. Deckelbaum is referring to one of our colleagues, Dr. Letterman, who's also on our faculty, just in moments like this, asked everyone to keep thinking about these overarching goals, that in addition to thinking about what we know works, also try to think about the areas that we're in agreement and build on the areas of agreement rather than getting distracted by areas of disagreement. So coming here from New York again, as Kim knows, it's very, very moving for me to see all of the hard work that you do over and above your major work. You're all here in addition to your primary work. And so when you find yourselves potentially disagreeing with each other, try to look up and then come back down and again, focus on the areas of agreement in these difficult challenges that you have.
Omar, I see you've been doing some drawing on the board behind me. What were you doing? I couldn't see because I was looking at you.
I was trying to group the barriers in order to analyze them. One of the barriers here I crossed, we cannot change the political violence. That's outside our hands. That someone is going to do us as citizens, we are going to do it. But as nutritionists, it's a bit too far. That means, let's put that aside. We have another one is the poverty. Of course, poverty is affected. How am I going to do poverty? But I hope that we are going to help the quality of the nutrition of the next generation, for they have a good work and reduce poverty. But this is a little also far from me. But then there are some things that we can group. The institution that is going to see as a leadership. Is there an institution to do that? Or is a new institution? I don't know. That institution needs to work for cooperation and collaboration with all the others. That comes together. There is one more. Well, that's one. And education is the lack of evidence, misinformation, lack of nutrition. That comes together too. There's something that I did not mention but are interesting. Is the conflict of interest. It's how some physicians don't want that the people is healthy because it's part of the salary. Okay, how can change that thing? The other is the pressure of the market, and this is a new market for the big companies. And then how is possible to regulate those things? That's are the things that you should provide some answers. If you, any of you would like to select any of these groups of barriers and express your ideas at this time.
We heard a comment before, we need data actual on food consumption data, as an example. So the United States actually produces, depending on which we listen to, 3,500 calories to 4,000 calories, close to 4,000 now, food calories for every single person, child, and infant in the United States. So the United States is producing almost twice as many calories as they need. And what do? They package it, they advertise it on television, they sell it. Some of it they try to give away, but they can't now, less and less because of the GMO rules in sub-Saharan Africa. So we've really got to get to some accommodation because industry here is growing fast, and you heard that. Between the government, the good of the people, what's good for the government, and also what's good for industry. But while industry follows what we would call corporate social responsibility, and not being part of the non-communicable disease or the undernutrition, under micronutrient problems, I suggest we focus a bit now in the last few minutes on one of the major themes. What do we need to do to move forward on micronutrient potential or real problems in Armenia?